China is expanding its reach around the globe. Last summer, the Republic of Panama cut ties with Taiwan to establish full diplomatic relationships with mainland China. This decision was made for economic reasons. China's economic and political clout is growing across Central America. Already, China is the second biggest user of the Panama Canal after the United States, and a Chinese company controls the ports on both ends of this strategic waterway. Controlling the Panama Canal Zone is part of China's strategy to become a superpower. The world's most important trade routes pass through the Strait of Malacca, the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Turkish Straits, the Suez Canal, and the Panama Canal. Whoever controls these maritime choke points controls world trade. Digging the Panama Canal was initially part of the United States' strategy to become a world superpower. President Theodore Roosevelt authorized the construction of this canal in 1904, and when it was finished, it allowed U.S. industry to move ships between the East Coast and the West Coast quickly. It also allowed the U.S. military to project power across two oceans. The United States leased Guantanamo Bay in 1903 from Cuba to protect the trade routes flowing to the Panama Canal Zone. It also established a system of naval bases and refueling depots stretching from Cuba to the coast of Asia via the U.S. territories of Hawaii, Guam, and the Philippines. Yet the United States withdrew from Subic Naval Base in the Philippines in 1992, and it returned the Panama Canal Zone to the Republic of Panama in 1999. Now it's China that's militarizing the South China Sea and courting Panama as its newest ally. If China's strategy is successful, it will add both the Panama Canal and the Philippines to its growing constellation of naval bases and refueling depots that stretches from the coast of Africa to the coast of Latin America. At one time, the United States and Great Britain controlled virtually every maritime choke point on the planet. How is it that these two nations in particular came to dominate world trade to such a great extent? In his book, The United States, Britain and Prophecy, Herbert W. Armstrong explains that all this actually began with a prophecy God made to Abraham. In particular, God promised Abraham that if he obeyed his laws, his descendants would possess the gates of their enemies. Now, a gate is a narrow passage of entrance or exit, and on a national scale, a gate is a choke point like the Panama Canal. And by giving the American and British peoples all the sea gates across the world, he virtually ensured that they would become superpowers. God also warned, however, that if Abraham's descendants did not obey his laws, they would lose these strategic sea gates. And in a prophecy in Deuteronomy, he elaborated further that not only would they lose these sea gates, but their enemies would use these gates against them. And so we see today that the loss of sea gates like the Panama Canal by the American and British peoples is a telling sign of where these nations are headed. To learn why this prophecy about sea gates applies specifically to the American and British peoples, request The United States and Britain in Prophecy by Herbert W. Armstrong.